thank you once again for joining us personally out here. I believe this is so much better than meeting on a Zoom call or a Instagram Live or a Facebook or a Google Meet. And I'm so glad that those days are over and finally we can meet together and discuss different things. In the last 2-3 years, we all sort of transitioned towards the digital medium in the quest for self-preservation. And I think काफ़ी चीज़ें हमें सीखने मिली है डिजिटल मीडियम से और काफ़ी चीज़ों की अहमियत भी हमें समझ में आई है while working with a digital medium. थिएटर की अहमियत समझ में आई है, लाइव रिहर्सल्स की अहमियत समझ में आई है. और मैं अपने पैनलिस्ट से ये पूछना चाहूँगी कि इस कोविड के दौरान जब हम इस ऑनलाइन और डिजिटल मीडियम के थ्रू गुजरे तो उनका क्या एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, अगर वो शेयर कर सकते हैं. और इसके अलावा do you think that working on a digital medium kind of had an impact on the thought process where we realized that maybe theatre can be more fluid and more adaptable, and whether we can use the digital medium to, attract a larger audiences. So this is one of the first questions, and I think I would like Mallika ji to start with this, since she did play Hidden in Plain Sight, which was streamed online, and if you can share your experiences on that.
Good evening, everyone. It's really lovely to be here, and it's lovely to be in a space where I have very fond memories of starting my theatre career. So thank you, Zafer, for bringing me to this panel. I want to start actually by saying that, of course, the pandemic threw up many things, many firsts before us, many challenges before us, and we had to had no prior experience of, and we had to sort of figure our way out through that time. So one of the things that I suppose I want to start off by saying immediately is that I don't think the experience of the digital time is easily comparable to what it is like or was like to experience or do theatre before the pandemic. So, it's, and this notion of that we can return to an older self or an older world or an older way of making theatre or experiencing theatre seems to me somewhat of a simplification, I think that moment was marked by loneliness and the absence of this shared physical space, let's say, okay? And the demands of it meant that we had to invent ways of being together again and to have that thing that we call a theatrical experience. And all of us made many mistakes, when I say mistakes, it's really learnings, when you go into a laboratory, you're experimenting with things, failing things, blow up in your face. It's all, everything is a way of learning something. So in that period, I think I was experimenting with two things specifically. One is the absence of an audience, which I think there's a philosophical idea as a theatre group we have explored before. It's called Anupalabdhi, which means that the presence of something is felt so much more starkly by its sheer absence. So that was the first thing that I think I was playing with, experimenting with, not knowing who I was talking to. So in this digital space, that was an idea that drove my work. And the other one was this idea of what happens to the actor's presence if there isn't an audience to validate or witness what is happening in the body of an actor. So these were the two things that I was experimenting with, and Hidden in Plain Sight was a result of many years of having worked with actor training and my interest in the politics of theatre in some ways, shall we say. So yeah, so that's what I want to sort of leave it here for the moment. It's a culmination of many years of work. I come from a generation where going to train to be an actor was thought of as absurd. because who does that, right? Spend 3 years of your life training. Because actors are mostly what? Sticks and stones and are supposed to do what the director tells you, right? So the fact that you trained to be an actor itself was a kind of a thing at that time. And to come back and find meaning or relevance between your training that was specialized and professional in a largely unorganized, when I use the word unprofessional, I don't mean it derogatorily, but I mean in a way where you are not thinking of it as a means to make a living, where largely theatre was practiced as a hobby. So it was very interesting to come back to that kind of space and make work, be an actor, and also train other people. So my return to Bangalore was really also my returning to training, but as a teacher and as a facilitator. So both these things have been very interesting in my life. So I'll leave that there.
Is anyone wants to add to the experiences of?
Firstly, can we request whoever is in charge of the light so that we can see the audience a little, because we are talking to them. Thanks, thank you so much. The pandemic really affected everybody, not just us theatre people. It definitely affected theatre people a lot because, we depend on congregations. There is something sacred about sharing the same time space, that the experience is created as it is being experienced. There is something sacred about that which is not there in the recorded medium. So I think that was a very big loss. And the great worry is whether, the pandemic would change people's behavior. And at least in my case, I found out it's not true. Not just that they're crowding, these cinema halls, all kinds of movies are doing well. People like to come to a space and share experience. That's true, it happens. And even in the case of a play that, that we have been doing over the last 2 years, as soon as, the bad COVID happened, the second wave, as soon as that went to we did a couple of shows here, they were sold out even before, anyone got to, just word of mouth that these shows will happen. And Rabindra Kalakshetra, 2 shows were sold out. The problem for digital media or entertainment media has been that, it's very technology dependent. So when the technology of production, technology of distribution particularly changes, the way even content changes and the way you make these moving image media products will change, and the way people view them. I think, the pandemic will affect storytelling a lot more in that space than it will do in the theatre space. And the last thing I'll say is that, I'm primarily an amateur theatre person. And for me, when I see this is what I'm used to. And I think this will be there. If I announce a play at Allianz and I'll come and perform here, I think this will be there. That will not change, I think. The problem that we must really look at is that whether we will continue to do works that can be done only through theatre, that cannot be done in any other way. So long as we find the need for this, that I can't do it any other way, which is what I found. I directed a play that was performed in the US. I did all the rehearsals sitting, in whatever Zoom or whatever these things are there. We did that. It is completely bizarre because I'm directing. I'm asking them to widen the thing so I can watch everybody, and we rehearsed. And they performed it, actually. The actors met at one physical space and people watched it. I can tell you I'll never do it again. I don't think this is possible. Okay, so that is the thing. You have to find reason to congregate to watch a play, because we have to give you something that there is no way you will get that experience with the best film, most advanced technology. Even Hamilton is too special. You cannot make it like it is something that can happen easily. Okay, so I think I leave it at that. As long as we need each other, we have to use this medium, theater. If we don't need each other's physical presence, we'll have to do away with it. In the last 3,000 years, that has not happened. I think we will survive COVID.
Thank you so much, everyone, for inviting me. गर्मी थोड़ी ज़्यादा है, ये असर शायद आपका है कि आपके बगल में बैठ के. Thank you so much. While Prakash sir pointed out on the operations part of it, I would just like to add on the space part of it. So earlier, if we talk about the physical spaces, we do have these prosceniums. And then there are intimate spaces, which earlier were options, but now are choices. Like I choose to go and perform at VMove space because I create. I mean, Rishi is an example, prime example of that, precisely why he takes up Allianz, right? Now, the same thing has happened post-COVID with the digital medium also. There are a few who started off the digital medium as an option because there's no other way. Even I tried and it didn't work out for me. But few people did try and it did work out for them, both economically as well. I can name an example called Mr. Sumit Loy from Kolkata. Forget the theater group's name. But he's been hosting digital theater festivals for the past 3 years now. And he's making money out of it. He's getting fundings from across the globe. I don't know how that's working. He's trying to make it more intimate. He's trying to, reduce that barrier of the physicality by creating a depth in the space, the realm of space, all that. I don't know. It works for him. It doesn't for me. Like Sir said, so it's always about your option versus choice. If this has been an option for me for the past 2 years, would I want to now make it as a choice and proceed, or come back to my physical space while keeping the alternative option of digital for a larger reach? That's about it.
कुछ बातें मेरी ज़हन में भी आई नैमुन के सवाल से. This COVID का जो experience था पिछले 2 सालों में, that has taught me so many things. जैसे कहते हैं कि ज़रूरत ईजाद की माँ है, उसी तरह I did some 3-4 play readings online, either through Zoom or Google Meet. या फिर कुछ जब टोटल लॉकडाउन था, तमाम आर्टिस्ट बेचैन थे. अब वो आर्टिस्ट तो ज़्यादा बेचैन थे जो बजाते थे परफॉर्मिंग स्टेज पर. उनको तो बेचारों को कोई जगह नहीं मिल रही थी जहाँ आए वो बजाएं, लोगों को सुनाएं. और जैसा प्रकाश ने कहा, यूएस में उन्होंने जो जूम मीट से बात की, तो मुझे भी ऐसा लगा जैसे रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर साहब की एक बात याद आती है मुझे, ठाकुर साहब की. जब उनकी गीतांजलि का ट्रांसलेशन हुआ तो लोगों ने पूछा कि कैसा लगा आपको, कि वो बोले कि भाई कोई भी मेरी नज़्म जब ट्रांसलेट होती है तो ऐसे लगता है कि मेरी महबूबा से कोई और बात कर रहा है मेरे. तो उसी तरह मुझे क्या लगा, ये मीडियम जो दूर से थिएटर करने का मीडियम है, क्योंकि कुछ परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स ऐसे हैं जहाँ इंटरेक्शन ज़रूरी है. वे मैं कुछ परफॉर्म करूँ, लोग तालियां मारें तो मेरा सीना फूल जाता है कि मैंने ज़रूर कुछ अच्छा किया है. और ये जो मीडियम की, ये जो बॉन्ड है मीडियम का बिटवीन द ऑडियंस एंड द स्टेज, जैसे थिएटर हुआ या डांस परफॉर्मेंसेस हुए, कथक हो, भरतनाट्यम हो, या फिर आपके म्यूजिकल परफॉर्मेंसेस हैं, तो ये सब लोगों को ऐसे लग रहा था कि हम हाउ वी कैन रीच द पीपल थ्रू दिस मीडियम. क्योंकि अब आज के जनरेशन को जो मैं बात करता हूँ, कल एक जोक पढ़ रहा था मैं, एक लड़का, किसी ने कैरिकेचर बनाया कि वो माँ को पूछ रही है, नाउ फिजिकल क्लासेस हैव स्टार्टेड, हाउ कैन आई म्यूट माय टीचर. You know, the small kid was asking his mother, I want to mute my teacher in the classroom. तो अब का जो जनरेशन है, इनको अगर मैं थिएटर समझाऊं, जब मैं अपने इनविटेशन भेजता हूं व्हाट्सएप पे लोगों को थिएटर के कि भाई आप आइए, जफर प्लीज सेंड मी द लिंक नो। अब ये नया जनरेशन मुझे इस तरह के जवाब देने लगा है। तो अब आप बताइए, हम ऑनलाइन से इतने ये हो गए हैं, और हम तो खैर बेजार हो गए थे, जैसा कि मैंने 2 रीडिंग की, उसके बाद बोला कि मैं नहीं करूँगा। I tried performing on 30-minute short act ख्याल की दस्तक थ्रू आई थी, उसमें ऑडियंस जितनी लिमिटेड थी उसमें जूम में, बट मज़ा नहीं आता है उसका। जो मज़ा मैं आप लोगों को रूबरू देखकर बात करने में जो मज़ा है, मुझे वो लुत्फ नहीं आता है। तो ये बातें हमने कुछ सीखी कोविड के दौरान, और वाकई थिएटर को बहुत धक्का लगा कोविड की वजह से। 2 सालों में जितनी भी थिएटर परफॉर्मेंस थे, जिस बार थे, जब लॉकडाउन खत्म हुआ तब मैं यहाँ का प्रेसिडेंट था, तो खोला जब ऑडिटोरियम, तो फर्स्ट परफॉर्मेंस लोगों के आंखों में आंसू आ गए कि 2 साल के बाद हम इतने लोगों को आसपास देख रहे हैं। आज ऐसा है कि इतने लोग यहाँ जमा होना, इट्स ए ग्रेट टास्क, और एक ऐसा ओकेजन लगता है कि चलो हम फिजिकली मिल रहे हैं सबको। तो कोविड, पोस्ट कोविड ने हमको बहुत कुछ सिखाया थिएटर में। मैं जानना चाहूँगा फ्रॉम Iyengar, New Vienna to here.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I actually have a different view, and frankly, in these 2 years, I enjoyed doing digital theatre.
That's good.
And I have numbers to prove, because I run a full-time theatre company, and my theatre company was profitable in COVID than any time before. Okay, and we scored, now March 31st is coming, which is the end of the financial year, so we have the highest balance in our account as compared to any of the previous years. That's primarily because one of the things that we did was we kind of adapted. As much as I do theatre for people, I also do theatre for corporates, and the one word which always I heard when I was doing theatre for corporates is theatre being not scalable, and it can't reach to places where it has to reach. Suddenly, COVID actually removed that part of scalability, and I had people coming from IIM and suddenly doing research on how theatre is now scalable, how Zoom is now becoming a platform, etc., etc. And it was a different, really a different ball game altogether. So it actually made my art scalable. It actually forced me to take to places where probably I couldn't have gone. I couldn't have done my theatre. I did a show for US2, and I wrote it in the Zoom format. So it was called as a Zoom play. So the first time we kind of invented Zoom play. So that was as crazy as it could get. And then we did the same play also in Shankara also. So we could adapt that. I mean, that's the beauty of theatre, that you could as well as do it as a Zoom play, get the same play and do it on stage as a proscenium theatre too. But yeah, I mean, it taught us to, I feel, for about, for about good 30, 40 years, we theatre practitioners never reinvented ourselves. We never brought in a freshness to our art. We were stuck amidst the 4 walls, and we also did not break the 4th wall for the major of the time. And COVID pushed us to innovate ourselves, be it doing it on Zoom, be it doing it on online, or meeting in small groups. And it also led to development of a lot of layout theatres, a lot of area theatres, small theatre groups forming in their particular small localities. I mean, a lot of things got innovated, and I think probably as much as we speak that COVID affected theatre, for me it actually brought in a different side of us. That it actually gave us a reminder telling that as an artist we need to start reinventing ourselves as time goes on. So that's what I think.
Well, okay. First of all, good evening.
Yep.
Thank you for having me here, sir. This is a surreal experience, and I want to say I really appreciate every person sitting in this room right now, because going back through these last 3 years in my head, this is what we missed most. This is what I missed most, having the energy of the people in the room. Now, it's interesting because, to be honest, before COVID was a thing, we had always fantasized about the idea of doing something this hybrid. We thought, okay, we're doing live performances. Why not shoot them and cast them somehow live as well? But when the option of performing live got taken away, when the energy of the rehearsal, your tribe, your cast and crew working together to form something that you're proud of now, when that got taken away, it kind of changed my opinion a little bit here too. I've sort of hungered to, at least through the resources available to me and through our company and everyone who collaborates with us, I want to champion live performances again. There is, when you cross over to the digital threshold, yes, it is, you can call it art, you can call it storytelling, it's good, it's great even. There are some great performances I've watched, and I'm glad that that is a part of our culture now. But for me, it doesn't replace the thrill of actually building an experience, building a space where people can walk into. And I've always been of the opinion, at least through our theatre that we do, that it doesn't start or finish with just the curtains or the lights being turned on and off. It starts with every piece of information you put out. It starts with the way you design your posters, your tickets. It starts with what the temperature of the room is if you curate when the audience walks in. We put a lot of thought into how the audience members are going to feel, because this is a sort of a sneaky tenet we follow when I'm directing or when I'm producing, and everyone's told this, that after a certain point in the process of creating the production, you have to start thinking about directing the audience. You now want to control how the audience is going to feel. You want them to feel the highs and lows that you've imagined when you read the script, when you've had it, workshop, or when you performed with your fellow actors. I'm glad we have, an option to scale. I'm glad that it's giving opportunities to people who previously might not have had opportunities. But I'm going to be a little biased here, unfortunately, and say that yes, there are OTT platforms and stuff, but what we're sitting on is the original platform for me. Yeah. That's what I want to stick to. That's it.
Thank you, Rishi. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that. I mean, I'm really excited about this conversation as it's starting. If it's okay, I just want to respond to something that Prakash started us off on. It reminds me of a conversation about 100 years ago that we had at Neenasam, but it must have been about 12 years ago or something. I don't remember exactly the date. But there was a lot of opinions about how television, for example, was taking away from theatre. And that conversation seems to be reawoken at this moment, Like with the advent of every kind of new technology or a new situation that we have to deal with, we imagine that somehow something is going to be taken away from theatre. But the thing is that I've always understood that theatre is the thing that adapts to everything that changes and takes it in, it absorbs it in, adapts to it, and then creates from that newness, So to me, while I feel the pain of nostalgia of how it ought to have been 3,000 years ago, I do feel that there is a lot of space for us to also think about what the new thing is that this moment is teaching us, It did teach us that with the isolation, it did teach us that the world was hardening into very absolute terms. Borders were being drawn so stringently, and we're seeing that right now, in terms of nationalism. We're seeing it in terms of fervor, in terms of identity and so on. But the fact that, of course, I'm going to speak as a theatre person, and that we are really border crossers, and that we took this moment to open it out and see that we could bring people into our rooms, into our houses, into our living rooms from across the world, and we could talk about things that hurt us and pained us. We could talk about the illness and talk about while dealing with a massive pandemic, and it didn't mean that we had to find ways to entertain only, because, there are other things that theatre does too, you know. We seem to have. Anyway, so I just wanted to say I'm very grateful to hear the fact that there is prosperity in theatre, because we always seem to talk about it in terms of poverty. We have sort of fallen into poverty desperately, which we will not acknowledge. But, you know, the fact that theatre can speak from a fact that we made money. We reached out, we found more people, more audiences, and ways in which we could find more people to come and watch our work, to me is a great success for all of us, you know, and ways in which we can move forward. Thanks very much for pointing that out.
See, there's something very interesting in Abhishek, what Abhishek said. And it doesn't suggest a contradiction as much as it suggests that there are two ways of seeing this. What he said was, he did this Zoom play, and then he put it together as a performance at Rangashankara. As art forms, there are different things I want to say. And I'm not saying I want anyone to agree with me. The problem of the recorded medium is that it's a technology-enabled thing, but a performance on stage, whatever the space of performance is, whether it's a proscenium or anything, whatever that art form is, it is predicated that you will be there where we'll perform, okay? And that is the one that will survive technological innovation too. When Zoom becomes an obsolete technology, theater will still be there. So if anyone says, I mean, you know, you're stuck to the past, I think the past is fine with me. You know, I don't mind the past, as long as it can be the future too. And I think it is very good that you find other ways of doing it. But I think you will think, because you said you put it together somewhere else too. When you see the future, this will be categorized as a digitally enabled moving images. You know, that's all. It is not that nostalgia that I'm talking about. It's not that. It is irreplaceable. That's what I'm saying. Vande desha kaladalli agodidiyalla, that is irreplaceable. They have to be there, and we have to be here.
So Prakash, you're referring to this unity of time and space, right? That moment that we have to experience something in the same moment. Now, these are ideas that one is beginning to expand, just as the way, in terms of the way we see theater as only something that can happen in a physical space, or that it can, earlier there would be this idea that it only has to be a written script, for example. So these are boundaries that are being blurred as we speak. So no, let me at least finish stating what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So the thing is that one is not refuting the fact that technology is not the one that is shaping this experience. Rather, one is, the technology really is the self, no? Is the presence, the actors.
No, technology
is the actor's
no,
presence.
technology is not the self. Technology is technology.
Technology that I'm speaking about is human presence, and how that can be communicated across digital media as well. You know, and it is not the same as a recorded thing. So a film, for example, or a television series is a recorded thing, you know, and that happens, and that can be seen. But what was happening in this time was that we were in the same time, maybe in different spaces. You know, we were, for example, when I do my classes, it is morning in my living room. It is the middle of the night for somebody who's across the world. And we are actually experiencing a moment together in that same moment. You know, so I'm saying that the technology that I'm talking about, which is adapting, is the human self, is the human presence, which is what we are talking about, what we missed, you know. And that isolation is where we created it from. So I'm not saying that this experience is going to go away, or we are not going to like this experience as much as we did earlier. I'm just trying to say that communicating human presence, doing theater, we have seen something, and we cannot unsee it. We cannot unlearn it. We can adapt and move forward with it, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I want to clarify because I am not saying it was not a great thing what Abhishek did. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying it's a great thing what you got. You found an option, you've done. But that is not the same thing as performing with an audience that is there. I want to tell you in a different way. See, when sports has this, sports has a live element. When the match is being played, you can see it live, for instance. Or Friends, the series was performed live. It was recorded. It was not recorded. It was also recorded, but it was also done live. But what they did when they did live, I'll move out of theater and I'll go to sports so that I can illustrate it better. When you see, they made the recorded thing give something that the live thing cannot give. Where you're seeing the hall, I used to joke I took my sister once to a cricket match, and when she was turning, somebody got out. She said, oh shit, I didn't see that, she said. I said, wait, they'll do a replay. But on the ground, there is no replay. So the recorded medium can innovate and create a thrill that you could not have experienced when it was live. So you get close-ups, you get Hawkeye, you get graphics, you get all that which you'll not see if you're in the stadium. So that is a different happy experience. This is a different happy experience. This is what I mean. So when this becomes innovated further and further by people like you, people who enjoy this, not people like me who have passed it, we don't want to do anything now. Okay, so when you do this, what happens is you'll find newer and newer methods. You'll block it for a close-up. You'll block it for a dolly. You'll block it for a two-shot because you'll realize some comedy bits have to be done with action and reaction being seen simultaneously. Your blocking needs may change because of that. All that will happen, but it is not just technology enabled, it's also a differently framed, narrative. That's all I mean to say.
No, listening to Abhishek, Prakash, and Mallika about technology. See, when I said I didn't like the Zoom, when I did the play, we had a play reading also. But we have adopted technology. See, technology, for example, I'll tell you, when we work and we create a set, suppose I'm doing a play of 13th century or 14th century, I can create a set only for this much. But the lights you can see above, the lights have come just 100 years back. We are doing centuries old plays, for example, Mircha Katika. When I am playing Ghalib, I have used the neck mic, which we carry here, because I thought I can reach more to the audience. We are adopting day by day the new technology in our stage. But the interaction with the live audience and with the live actors, I felt which we can achieve only in the auditoriums, not on a screen. That was my take. Anybody want
Sir, I wanted to add,
I had
sorry,
I had a
Go ahead.
just to add on to the number.
Yeah.
Business Standard did I could probably send that link also. They did a survey, and out of all the performing arts, and this is very ironical as we speak, set of theatre practitioners speaking, out of all the performing arts during COVID, theatre was the only performing art that adapted technology to the fullest. Not music, not dance, not any other performing art, but theatre was the only performing art that adapted theatre, so that adapted technology, and it could be Zoom, it could be anything else that we are talking today. But we as practitioners, we adapted technology to the fullest as compared to the and we're kind of very proud of that we could adapt that. And going forward, as Prakash said, that there are two different ways to it. Probably this might improve. I mean, we are talking about we are living in the era of VR, of virtual reality, augmented reality. We might go there. Theatre should go there. We probably can sit in our houses and watch a theatre performance. Would you call it as movie images or performing art? That's a different question altogether. But I'm optimistic about the fact that we should make it time and also keep what we have as roots. So that's one of the things that I want.
And also that you had a profitable venture, you should share the secret with us. Okay, coming to some of the points that I heard during the conversation, one thing which I wanted to highlight was what Sir rightly mentioned, that theatre brings in a certain amount of emotion and a certain intimacy that you have with the audience when you perform on stage, which kind of lacks when you're doing a digital performance. But what I'm trying to understand is that how do we attract more audiences towards the theatre? Like if you look at, honestly, if you look at the audiences that we have in the theatre circuit, it's a very closely knit circuit, and all of you that you've gathered here are family, friends, artists, ex-alumni, theatre students perhaps. But the crowd that actually, the common man, it's been very difficult to bring them to the theatre. But if you look at a movie or a multiplex, इंसान जाके 500 रुपए की टिकट खरीद लेता है एक पिक्चर देखने के लिए, 1500 रुपए खर्च करता है कोई म्यूजिकल कॉन्सर्ट देखने के लिए, पर थिएटर अगर हम फ्री में भी ऑफर करते हैं तो वी आर नॉट एबल टू गैदर द राइट अमाउंट ऑफ क्राउड. तो इस डायरेक्शन अगर हम सोचें तो आई फील लाइक अभिषेक के जो पॉइंट है दैट वी आर एबल टू रीच अ लार्जर ऑडियंस थ्रू digital medium. I feel somewhere it is sort of valid that we kind of balance this whole thing and use this platform to the fullest to reach to a larger audiences. That is my takeaway from the thing. If anyone wants to add to it.
Can I answer?
Yes.
But I promise I'll not hog the mic. Just give it off as soon as I answer. The danger of that is that it may affect the content. See, if 50 people gather, I can do a work of sensitivity that I cannot do. The small crowd, the intimate theater, is an enabling idea. But it's also a preference. I am not actually valorizing one over the other. I'm saying, when you want to do, see, that's why I declare myself as an amateur thing. The moment I want to reach it out to so many people, I think because I'm old and I've done theater every year of my life, since I was 4 or 5 years old, I can tell you that when you want to reach it out to hundreds of people, you want to have a combined audience of, say, 1,50,000 rupees. The way you do theater, the kind of place you pick will change, This freedom to do exactly what you want is very difficult. See, let's say I want to do an English language play. I know that it is going to be limited to an audience of 4,000 or 5,000. If it does about 10, 15, 20, 30 shows, that's it. I'm happy to do that because I can do it only with theater. Nobody else will do that. If you do Ghalib, if you wanted to reach it out to so many people, the design of the play changes, it's the content changes also. That is the danger of it. I'm saying, I'm happy with what was there. I'm happy to continue with that. It's a preference. It's not to say it is better or worse than anything you people want, okay?
Oh, since I'm holding the mic. So I think the idea that's sort of like forming in my mind is that actually there isn't a grammar to talk about what happened as yet. There isn't a grammar by which you can describe it or talk about its process for what happened during the last 2 years. So we are imposing lenses that we know, what are familiar. And those are really powerful ones. Everybody is familiar with it, and it works, right? So the thing is that there is a newness to it. There is a vulnerability to it, and there is something that you can poke holes into it any number of ways and all of that. That's absolutely fine, but that's how a new thing, a new way of being together is emerging. This is not to, as of course, being in the space science, that's not the thing at all. But I think there's something more to take forward. Speaking of surveys, there was a recent survey that revealed that in the performing arts, there has been a shrinkage of 70%, which means only one of every 3 people in the theaters or in the performing arts have survived this moment, you know. And that means that those of us who sort of held on to what is a known way of performing and being together, in some way, we have to find ways to bring them back, you know. And some people found ways to be continuing to make work, you know, in that time. And I somehow feel that the content of your work changes only if you're only talking to an audience, you know, and not talking from a place of creation. If you are a person who is creating work, you will speak from your pain in your politics, your joys, your pleasures, or whatever it is that fascinates you. But if you're speaking to power all the time, or if you're speaking only to an audience that is out there, then of course, when the audience changes, your content will change. But I don't believe that is something that is always true, you know. And as Prakash rightly says, these are choices, you know, and not necessarily a default position or a compulsion, so to speak. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I got confused a bit, but and secondly, I'll like to answer this in Hindi because I have challenge with articulation. I would like to just put 2 points, दो points बस रखना चाहूँगा with regards to the audience part of it. So I just came from Rangashankara. I wanted to hear one of my favorites, Atul Pethe, who's in town, on his experience कि वो क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं. और उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी बात कही कि देखो थिएटर का बस हुजूम से नाता है ना. तो पहले जहाँ आप थे वहाँ हुजूम आ जाता था, अब जहाँ हुजूम है वहाँ आप पहुँच जाओगे. बस यही एक फर्क है. और दूसरी बात है कि कितना हुजूम लाना है. लाइक राइटली प्रकाश has said, as of you like gathering a 200 or 300 isn't much of a challenge. That's a sold out for you. For us, a sold out is 50, 60 also in Rangashankara. And fortunately that is happening. वो हो रहा है बैंगलोर में. और वो इसलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि ये एक तरीके से ब्लेसिंग इन डिस्गाइज की तरह काम किया. हो सकता है लोगों को मुझसे घृणा हो बाद में ये जो मैं कह रहा हूँ उसके बाद. बट कोविड के पहले हमने एक चीज देखी कि कई सारे लोग नाटक करना शुरू कर दिए थे कि आप देखेंगे हर नुक्कड़ में एक थिएटर ग्रुप बन रहा था. ये अच्छा भी है, पता नहीं शायद थोड़ा बुरा भी है, क्योंकि आपको पता नहीं आप क्या देखने जा रहे हो और उससे आपको क्या हासिल होगा. और उसके बाद फिर जब प्रकाश सर आपको नाटक देखने बुलाएंगे तब फिर आप नाटक देखने जाओगे या नहीं जाओगे. इन 2 सालों में आपको असलियत कहीं ना कहीं पता चल गई. आपको ये पता चल गया कि आपकी थिएटर के तरफ में रुचि है या नहीं है. और जिनको है वो सरवाइव कर गए और वो अभी भी वही कर रहे हैं. और जिनको नहीं पसंद या उनको रियलाइज हो गया कि नहीं दिस इज नॉट माई कप ऑफ टी, तो वो कहीं और चीज में चले गए. तो फॉर मी कोविड एक्टेड एज अ प्योरिफिकेशन ऑफ द क्वालिटी ऑफ वर्क in one way. And final thing, I'll end with this, is as far as work is concerned, if you really focus of, bothered about the content, you would not be bothered about the audience. If you're bothered about the audience, you'll go get celebrities and the audience will come along. So that's...
I think it's very well framed. Yeah.
So a couple of points I'd like to touch on. First of all, just because this has become somewhat of an uncomfortable position where it seems like a side. Let's, at least today of all days, let's dream about what this is. Theatre is a community. It is the audience, it is creators, it is the want-to-be creators, all of us together in one room, growing, learning, and taking it year by year, decade by decade, generation by generation. In that case, when we have an added limb to help out creators. When we're talking about the digital platforms, when we talk about giving people a chance to bring out the artist in them over something that is not as complicated as traveling to a 45-day schedule or a 90-day schedule for a rehearsal because you're in lockdown. Or even if, because there are no facilities or resources available to you. I think it's a great thing that both of them exist because in the end, our community, our audience, if they come in to watch us perform live, if we put up something online, they will watch it. Hopefully both of them can coexist and we help the other grow. Now, I want to touch on bringing the audience in post-COVID. First one's a little simpler, which is give them something different. Give them something they don't have at home, and the luxury and the convenience of the screen. Convenience has made us all lazy. Personally speaking, for me, I would rather watch a movie on my large TV at home than travel across town to a movie theater. I mean, it's gone to that length. Forget live performances. It's made, convenience has made life easier and it's made us lazier. And when you want to break people out of that mold, when you want to bring in the audiences, is why at least for me, my way of storytelling, and this is just for me personally, it comes in through giving them something that they're not going to experience anywhere else. And I don't just mean online. I mean, you can't go to a museum, you can't go to, a performance in any place, any amateur put together, and I know how much heat I'm going to draw by saying these words. I don't mean any disrespect, but it leads to my third point. So, it can't be replaced by just something put together haphazard. And that's the tie to the third point, which is accountability. I agree with Srinivas when he said, maybe it's good that some of them dropped off. When there was a bit of a cutting as far as to aspirations on stage post-COVID. And yes, it's sad that a lot of people who probably deserved an opportunity to explore it more got that opportunity taken away from them. But it also meant that the people who stuck through it now have a deeper appreciation and will actually add something of value. I have friends, I'm not proud to say this, but I've learned on the job. When my first couple of productions back in 2011, 2012, I was horrible. My direction, my experience, everything was so bad. I have friends who have invited them to come watch that play, who will now unfortunately never go watch theatre again, because I gave them a bad show. I feel like there has to be a little bit of a sense when it comes to a little bit of a balance between the content and the audience when you're pulling them in, because after all, you rely on them. You can't just do everything from an artist's perspective, and this is both the producer and the director's experience in me speaking. You can't just do everything from an artist's perspective, because then it would make no difference if you had no audience involved. Then completely. And again, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. When we're selecting scripts nowadays, I have so many scripts, so much good material written which I want to bring to the stage, but I know I've been through these nightmares where I can understand, okay, this is a 3.5-hour production. The audience that comes in today, it's very difficult to maintain them and their interest for 3.5 hours. Immediately when you're thinking of, from a production point of view, you start looking at content, at length, I'll say entertainment value from time to time as well. And not to the point of selling out, but you have to give them something in return, because we're the ones that are in desperate state, in a desperate period. So, yeah, please.
As she said, we're bringing the audience after COVID. Last year, I did 10 shows of जिसने लाहौर नहीं देखा in between 2 lockdowns. बड़ी मुश्किल हुई, but I had हाउसफुल. अलियांस में तो 4 मेरे shows हाउसफुल थे. कोरमंगला क्लब में थोड़े कम थे, रंगशंकरा में भी थे, बट हाँ
कब नहीं होते हैं।
अच्छा नहीं, बट प्रॉब्लम क्या हुई कि कोविड के बाद जब मैं मैसेजेस भेजता हूँ अपने व्हाट्सएप के जरिए, बिकॉज दैट्स द ओनली मीडियम आई हैव, बिकॉज आई कांट अफोर्ड ए बिग एडवर्टाइजमेंट इन बिग न्यूज़पेपर्स, तो मेरे जितने भी ऑडियंस है जो आप अपना ईमेल छोड़ते हैं उनसे मैं रीच होता हूँ या फिर व्हाट्सएप से रीच होता हूँ, कभी कभी कुछ लिस्टिंग आ जाती है अखबार में, बस यही हमारा मीडियम है, वी आई रीच टू द ऑडियंस. बट द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम व्हाट आई फेल्ट आफ्टर कोविड, even though the government guidelines were relaxed कि भाई चलो 100% आपके ऑडिटोरियम में अलाउड है, ये लोग पता नहीं क्या इनका मेजरमेंट था, कभी 15% बोले, कभी 100 बोले, फिर उसके बाद बोले कि नहीं 100%. सो वी एग्रीड व्हाटएवर द गवर्नमेंट हैज गिवन अस द गाइडलाइन. उसके बाद भी ये मानसिकता जो थी, जो लोगों के जहनों में एक बात बैठ गई थी कि इफ यू गो टू ए क्राउडेड ऑडिटोरियम सो वी मे गेट अफेक्टेड बाय कोविड. उससे लोगों को दूर लाना बड़ा मुश्किल काम था. आज आई थिंक आई शुड सैल्यूट यू ऑल कि यू हैव कम टुडे. वी ऑल शुड गिव ए क्लैप टू यू ऑल कि आज आप पोस्ट कोविड आज यहाँ ऑलमोस्ट हॉल फुल है, आप लोग यहाँ जमा हैं. तो मैं लोगों को ये बोलने लगा, देखो फार्मर का स्ट्राइक चल रहा है पंजाब में 1 साल से, कितने लोग मरे, ये वहाँ इतनी रैलीज हुई, कितने लोग मरे. सो प्लीज कम विद ऑल, वी हैव ऑल द गाइडलाइंस, कोविड के गाइडलाइंस, हमने बाहर सैनिटाइजर रखा है, आप मास्क पहन के आइए तो कुछ नहीं होगा. इस तरह से मैं कुछ मैसेजेस भेजने लगा लोगों को. तो अब कुछ उम्मीद की किरण नजर आ रही है. आई थिंक वी कैन डू मेनी शोज द वे ऑडियंसेस आर कमिंग. हिम्मत जुटाकर वो क्लोज्ड ऑडिटोरियम में आ रहे हैं, ये देखकर मुझे वाकई बड़ी खुशी हो रही है.
Marketing for getting audience into theatre has always been a challenge. Be it pre-COVID or post-COVID. It's always a challenge. I mean, to get people to watch theatre, it's a very big challenge because I think you have to first tell people what is theatre, then make them understand what is this particular art form, and then remember it's not a popular medium. It's injected into the system that theatre is only for intellectuals, which is a very bad thing. I mean, I call it as a very ridiculous way to describe an art form. Theatre is not, and it's very ironical also. Theatre actually was born out of a common man, and it's now is a property of an intellectual. Is what I'm always told. I mean, in order to get rid of this, it has taken a lot of time, and then suddenly we had COVID. So I mean, it will always remain a challenge. I mean, post-COVID, I mean, further this, there will be something else, and then again we'll sit here and say that how to bring audience, and then after that there can be something else. Again we'll sit here and think what to do, how to bring audience. So one common question before even we actually read the first lines of a theatre script, we sit in a circle and say that okay, at least how to bring audience to this. So that's a common factor in every rehearsal room, in every theatre group. Agree or disagree, we sit and we say how to market it because we don't have, as Zafer said, we don't have budgets, we can't place ads. Gone are the days, I think when Prakash and all wrote for newspapers, there were big bulletins that were reserved for theatre. We don't have that now. None of the newspapers now write about theatre. They have also reduced pages. In fact, so it actually gets more difficult probably. And then we are fighting with what? We are not only fighting with COVID, we are fighting with IPL, we are fighting with KPL, we are fighting with CPL, I don't know what all PLs that we need to fight, plus OTT, and a lot of things. So I think it's another different day to debate on how to get, and no one has cracked it. I mean, I don't think so anyone will actually also crack it. So I leave it at there that it will be a challenge and it will remain a challenge.
May I just respond to that?
Adding one line to him, as he said, now the OTT has come, that is other than theatre, I think, the full form of OTT. जो घर बैठे आप Netflix में या Amazon में देख रहे हैं, तो लोग इतने आदी हो गए हैं कि प्ले को भी चाहते हैं कि वो फिंगर टिप्स पर मोबाइल में देखें या अपने स्क्रीन पर देखें. तो ये हमारा सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है टू रीच पीपल. इसलिए मैं हमेशा बोलता हूँ कि अगर कोई कॉर्पोरेट्स हैं यहाँ या मेरी आवाज़ कॉर्पोरेट तक जाती है तो प्लीज़ ऐड सच theatre, literature, classical dance, classical music into your CSR funds. not only the NGOs, but you add in your CSR fund so that you can help such theatre groups to preserve this art.
Very well said.
Okay, I seem to be saying the thing that sort of is always on a tangent with some of the things that are being expressed here. I completely agree that theatre needs its community of people, but I've found that audiences sometimes do behave like communities do, if you know the theatre or if you know the person, it's somewhat like caste system, if you please. So the thing is that when something new opens up, you also have new horizons that open up for bringing new people into the audiences. We may need to learn new ways of how do we reach them, and every day we are doing that. Zafar sir, WhatsApp पहले नहीं था, उसके पहले हमारे पास Instagram नहीं था, Facebook नहीं था, but पोस्ट कार्ड होते थे, पोस्टर्स होते थे, और पर्सनली जा के हम लोग टिकट बेचते थे, ब्रोशर बेचते थे ना, तो वो अब हम नहीं करते हैं. We've got a lot of other stuff. So I just feel that this whole idea of I love the fact that we have a community, but that community doesn't necessarily have to there is a possibility to open that community up and be a little more inclusive, in terms of where that community is sitting. It doesn't have to be inside. For example, when we think about proscenium theatre or we think about venues, the question I've had to ask myself during the pandemic is, how much of that is determined or governed by the economics of the venue? And how much of that percolates down to the artist who's actually the smallest, the thing that makes that landscape, creates work for that landscape. How much of that actually percolates? There are enough number of awards, reliefs that we heard of during the pandemic, but it's all disappeared in terms of how does it actually, where is the pathway that I can notice as to where it has actually come to the performer, and many times I feel that, I can't speak for the number of people who fell off the grid, and for what reasons. I mean, I can sit here and feel very happy about myself that I survived it, and therefore, I must have been better, or my, connection to it may have been better. But I just do feel that maybe we don't know the whole story there, and to speak for the quality of somebody else's work simply because they fell off the grid seems a little of a stretch to me, and I want to sort of put that there, Yeah.
Well, since the question is about how do we bring the audiences to the floor, I'm going to now request the audience to, we'll leave the forum open for you to interact with our judges, and if you would like to ask the panelists any questions, you can feel free to do so. And I think some of the questions have already reached us, so.
हम आपको दिल से प्यार करते हैं थिएटर फॉर्म में, आपको घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है.
आप अपना तारीफ कीजिए, अपना परिचय दीजिए.
मेरा नाम नवरत्न है.
क्या?
नवरत्न कुरमा से आपको याद आ जाएगा. तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि
बहुत सी चीजें तेल भी है.
बिल्कुल और थिएटर तेल का ही काम करती है. आप अगर हम IT वर्ड से जो आते हैं, अगर 3 घंटे कंप्यूटर के सामने बैठ जाए ना, तेल की बहुत ज़रूरत पड़ जाती है. तो बहुत अच्छा काम करते हैं, और आप जो काम करते हैं बहुत हम प्यार करते हैं. आपने पूछा कि क्या तरीका है लोगों को बुलाने का. हम लेज़ी हैं, आपने ज़रूर कहा, लेकिन हम अपने आप को ब्लेम नहीं करना चाहते, क्योंकि हम ब्लेम कर सकते हैं ट्रैफिक को और पार्किंग प्लेस को. वो कम कर दो, हम आ जाएंगे.
My name is Jayant and I'm a software engineer. My question is to Abhishek Iyengar sir. So you were talking about mixed reality and virtual reality, right? So how do I differentiate, like you mean mixed reality means you can virtually create the props on the stage. I meant proscenium theater you can really create. So as an audience, how do I differentiate between the reality, like authenticity of the play, whether it is recorded or not recorded? If it is recorded, then what's the difference between a movie and a theater.
Yeah, I think I'll answer your second part first. That's what I think Prakash said, that whatever that you do it on digital, it will be classified as moving images and not live performance. Now, so if VR and AR and mixed reality comes into picture and it comes into reality one day, so it might be classified as a moving images theater performance or whatever that you want to call it, a hybrid performance or whatever it is. Now, in order to answer your first question, how do I define reality? That's again left to you as to which one you want to consider it as reality. I mean, basically nothing is real. Anything that is actually we are showing on stage or even off stage in terms of whatever on the virtual platform is one's imagination. That's imagination of a writer or a director or an actor himself who has actually created that imagination. So if you're asking on the exact execution part, a lot of things can be actually built upon. That's for the future. But if you're asking on a very intellectual level on what is reality, then that's again that is for you to discover on what is reality or for you to accept what is reality. If you ask me, nothing is real. So everything is one's imagination, and in your imagination, we are trying to build a world that we want to show you, which is our world. So that's left to you to figure out what is reality.
Also, I'd just like to add on to Abhishek's point as to how does it matter. In the sense, what instead you should be pondering on is it immersive enough for you? Are you really able to perceive it versus on stage versus wearing a VR glass? If you are, then that is real for you because that Nishotpatti is happening, right, as per Natya Shastra. So whether it's immersive for you or not is probably should be a more valid question rather than questioning on the aspect of reality for it because it's very subjective again.
मेरा सवाल जफर मोहिउद्दीन साहब से है। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। यहाँ पैनल में बहुत सारे एक्सपीरियंस लोग बहुत सारे सलाह मशवरे बहुत अच्छे दिए थिएटर के बारे में। यहाँ ऑडियंस बेकरार है कि ड्रामा कब शुरू होगा।
Sir, my name is Fazil Ahmed. I have been listening to the panelists. I find there is a lot of emotional, organic passion and inorganic passion among the panelists. I think I come from Tamil Nadu, where the drama played a very important role before it went on to movies. I think drama gave way to films, and now digital world is slowly edging out the thing, and I can find that the real tadap bolte hai na, jisko among the people like Zafer Mohiuddin and Prakash sir and all these people, you can feel that tadap in you, emotion, that connecting to the people in flesh and blood. Digital में flesh and blood नहीं मिलता है, जब ये connect कभी नहीं मिलेगा आपको. So I think we have to ensure that this somehow we all should come forward and help the drama people to have this kind of shows. I think I am with this group, organic group.
मैं आपको एक चीज मैं आप रिस्पॉन्ड करना चाहती हूँ, ठीक है? जब आप अकेले थे, आपने क्या फोन उठा के अपने जो प्रिय लोग हैं उनसे क्या आपने फोन पे बात की थी?
कभी।
और क्या वो अकेलापन थोड़ा सा दूर हुआ था?
हाँ, हुआ था।
हाँ, तो ये प्रेजेंट उस जगह पे आप नहीं थे।
हाँ।
सिर्फ आवाज सुन के आपको एक किस्म की तसल्ली हुई थी, है ना? किसी के साथ होने का एहसास हुआ था, आभास हुआ था। उसको हम ह्यूमन कनेक्शन कहते हैं। और वो ह्यूमन कनेक्शन जो है वो नेसेसरीली स्क्रीन से दूर नहीं होता। अगर वो इंसान सचमुच आपसे कनेक्ट करना चाहता है तो आप वो लंदन में बैठा होगा, आप बैंगलोर में होंगे या हुबली में होंगे, और वहां से फोन पर आप बात करेंगे और आपको लगेगा कि हम दोनों एक दूसरे के बगल में बैठे हैं.
Now I would like to interrupt
so
you.
I'm just saying that, no,
I would like to interrupt you.
Of course, please do. I'm only saying that just because something is new, it is not going to take away from something that we have always experienced.
I totally agree with you, ma'am. By my
and it is not inorganic. It still has human
100%.
desire to
100%. But fortunately or unfortunately, we belong to that generation. We believe in that.
But the present, they
I want to say something, you know.
Yeah.
See, whenever technology has come, new things have come. There was no, he himself said there was theater, but the technology of recorded images came and theater yielded to that. That's how cinema came there, he said. See, it's implicit. He acknowledges there are other ways of reaching people, and you must accept it. Every new change will bring something, and you will classification also. You'll find a new word for it, one day. That is not a problem. See, I'll tell you what really bothers me. See, look at this was post-COVID theater, okay? We got affected because of COVID. We did not just get affected that we could not perform plays. We got affected in a million ways, like how you work, how you live, where you want to settle down now. People are thinking, I see, there are lots of statistics now for how young people are thinking about settling down, about having children and stuff like that, See, I will tell you, the question, for instance, that bothers me is that COVID so fundamentally altered our psyche. At least, I'm not just being anecdotal. I think a lot of us got completely affected by COVID and what it means for humans to live with nature. Climate change has affected us deeply. We have changed the way we think about animals. We imagined a human-centric world where what is good for people is enough. That is how we have lived. Suddenly, we cannot live like that anymore. Yeah. So what would be the content of post-COVID, performance or cinema or anything is the thing that should bother us the most, I think. At least that's the thing that bothers me the most. I feel technology is marginal to this, to be bothered whether you make a film or theater. My preference is theater. So I'll be bothered what kind of plays to do in the future. I have no interest in doing many of the plays that I used to do before. I don't feel like doing those plays now. I get affected by that. I'm not affected by technology. Okay, that's what I mean. I'm saying there are different ways of imagining this. Technology is marginal to theater. Yes. I want to keep on saying this.
Yes.
Even if you didn't have, you could have imagined. Theater has changed using technology and without using technology too. He's written a monologue, for instance, okay? What is that? No, so I'm saying it, but you need one person and you need content and there should be another person. That's it, right? That's the triangle that completes the show. Basically, I'm saying you use or don't, it's aharya, that's all, it's nothing else.
Sir, COVID, एक ही बात बोल के खत्म कर देता हूँ. I totally share the pain and anguish of Mr. Prakash. पहले क्या था? हम लोग हाथ मिलाते थे, we used to shake hands. हक करते थे, थोड़े लोग प्यार भी कर लेते थे. ये सब चला गया. कोई छींकता है तो लोग भाग जाते हैं. One small sneeze is enough to send people scurrying. पहले God bless you बोलते थे. एक मिनट. So I think I share the anguish with Mr. Prakash. Maybe there is a big generation divide, I suppose.
I'll respect the view of that man, टोपी पहन के अभी उससे कहा, वो उनका एहसास मैं समझता हूँ सभी का है, सभी बेचैन हैं to see that करना मोनोलॉग है. इसके बाद एक 12 मिनट का, उसके बाद थोड़ा सा ब्रेक होगा, उसके बाद हमारे सेट्स होंगे और ये प्ले देखिए. आप लोग प्ले देखने आए हैं तो वैसे बहुत सी बातें हैं, अगर हम डिस्कशन करें तो और भी एक आधा घंटा 1 घंटा हम जा सकते हैं. तो हम लोगों का ख्याल रखते हैं सब उनकी इसका. तो अब हम कंक्लूड करते हैं इस डिस्कशन को. एंड आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक ऑल द पैनलिस्ट हु हैव कम. सिर्फ मेरे फोन कॉल से प्रकाश मेरे बहुत पुराने दोस्त हैं. वी बोथ स्टार्टेड टुगेदर इन बीएटी. श्रीनिवास के साथ भी हमने काफ़ी हिंदी प्लेस किए. मलिका को तो मैं 20-25 साल से जानता हूँ और वो भी काफ़ी वॉइस वर्कशॉप वगैरह हमारे आर्टिस्टों के लिए यहाँ आके की हैं. और अभिषेक अयंगार भी अब हमारे साथ हैं. ये करना में बहुत अच्छे प्लेस कर रहे हैं. इन्हीं का लिखा हुआ एक मोनोलॉग है जो आप सुनेंगे. और ऋषि जिनका क्विवर ग्रुप है, इनके अंग्रेजी प्लेस में देखता हूँ, इंग्लिश प्लेस. हाल ही में मैंने एक प्ले देखा, एक बड़े अलग सेटअप से उन्होंने किया था. कभी आपको मौका मिले तो क्विवर के प्लेस भी देखिए. ही इज ऑल्सो वेरी क्रिएटिव एंड वेरी गुड डायरेक्टर एंड राइटर. So I thank you all. You have come on my invitation. So अब हम शुरू करते हैं. I request Abhishek to please come and perform your Kannada monologue. Then we'll have a break. आप कुछ कहना चाहें?
जी, मोहम्मद रेहान आलम, मैं एक छोटा सा शेर के ज़रिए से कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि शबनम से क्या प्यास बुझे जब तक के बरसात ना हो, ख़त से क्या दिल भरे जब तक कि मुलाकात ना हो। इसके ज़रिए से मैं आपको ये बात बता रहा हूँ।
Thank you so much.